good, my homages? Welcome back to another video. As you can tell from the title, today we're going to be telling the story behind one of my absolute favorite paintings that I've ever created in my entire life. It's called Happy. There is so much depth and so much meaning to this piece, and it makes me almost cry. I have an emotional attachment to a few pieces, and this one in particular is one of my favorites, so once it goes I might cry. But also tears of joy because it'll rightfully go to the right home, the right owner, and the person who is meant to have it, I guess. I'm trusting the process, I'm trusting God to get this painting to where it needs to go. This painting is dedicated to those struggling in silence. Happiness is the opposite of depression, and that's what a lot of us struggle with. There's quite a few of us in the world, not the majority of the population. There's a majority of the population that does not understand mental health. They don't understand the depth of grief. They don't understand the depth of depression. They don't overall understand it as a whole because they've never been through it themselves. When I went throughout my life, and I've talked to people who've never struggled with depression, and there was a part of myself that kind of felt like they were lying because I was like, well, everybody struggled with sadness, everyone struggled with depression. Depression is more than just sadness. I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and it comes in waves. You don't know when it's going to come on. It's a lot like anxiety. It's very hard because you find yourself latching onto those happy and joyous moments for dear life because you don't know when the next full swing is going to hit you. So I want to talk about this painting and a little bit about what everything means. I'm going to try and fit it in this frame. I know I don't have a lot of space to work with in my kitchen. My house is pretty small and my living room's kind of a mess. So we're gonna work with it here. So I'm gonna drink my coffee. All right, you guys, here's the grand reveal. I don't know, let's see if I can get it in there. I haven't tried this. Oh yeah, look at that. What? My favorite. Alright, so I'm going to show you, I'll get some up close shots in here too when I'm talking about it. So this painting is an acrylic pour. Sorry, my furnace kicked on, I gotta stop the video. Okay, sorry about that. The second that the furnace kicked out, I turned it off, but then I noticed my pans in my oven were vibrating. It was extremely annoying, but here we go. We're gonna keep talking about this. I'm gonna get to my point here. So, I wanna tell you a little bit about this, and sorry I don't have a microphone yet. It's not in the budget, because, well, we are working on getting monetized, and we can only afford what we can afford, so I don't have a Rode microphone yet. I will be getting one in the future, so I apologize if the audio isn't perfection, but story time. This is an acrylic pour. There's a lot of different colors in here. There's like gold, pink, all the colors, right? And this kind of looks scaly. Kind of reminds me of like a reptile or something. I wanted to point out that there's 7 butterflies. I have a huge journey. I have a long history. I know that not everybody believes in God, but I do. And I'm sharing my faith on here. How many days did it take for God to create the earth? 6. And when I was painting this, I was thinking really deeply about this because I think at the time I had 5 or 6 butterflies on here, and I had to make it 7 because 7 is not only my lucky number, but I was born on the 7th of a certain month. And I was like, well, God created the earth in 6 days and rested on the 7th, and rest is very important. It's something that I struggle with. It was very important for me to have 7 butterflies in here. Butterflies are very significant to me. They represent transformation, changes. A lot of us are caterpillars at some point in our life, whether it's a career, whether we're learning something new, whether we're going through a challenge in life. And we go in this process of this cocoon and we do the work internally and we work very hard on this thing. And a lot of times I don't really see the results until we've emerged from the cocoon and you can see the wings and we spread them and fly. So butterflies are just very, 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 they hold very close to my heart. So the wild and poppy colors represents perception. It's how we view the world and how we look at things. You can take a walk out in nature and choose to focus on all your problems, or you can take a walk out in nature and appreciate the beauty and really have gratitude in your heart. And that was something that I really struggled with. I'm gonna keep talking about that in a second here, but I wanna kind of get to the point. There's a skeleton here. The skeleton represents life and death. And this fungi down here, so the reason why the mushrooms here are kind of psychedelic looking, it's not because I do shrooms or anything like that. It's just to represent that there's so much quality and so much worth that goes into art, and there's so much worth that goes into nature, and there's so much importance in the stillness, right? And the last thing that I want to kind of point out here is like you have the flames, and this is kind of to represent like rising from the ashes and like rising out of the fire, because I know not everybody believes in astrology, but I'm technically a fire sign, and so the flames are here because a lot of times, that's just my personality. I am fire. I'm very docile, I'm very calm, but when you feed the fire, it's kind of big and it's a little intimidating. But the fire, you know, you can either let the fire consume you or you can let it help you along your journey. All right, my favorite part about this entire painting is this black and white line here. And I added this like in the midst of painting the butterflies. I was like, it needs something else. Something needs to be going through the center of this. And I didn't, you know, intentionally plan on originally putting the skull in this place. It just happened to be like that. And this, oh, I've almost chills talking about this, but this black and white line represents depression. And this has represented how many years of my struggle that I've went through, my family members, my friends, everybody that I know, all the celebrities, all of the musicians that I've looked up to that took their own lives. This is significant because depression is in your brain. It's a chemical imbalance. It's so hard and it's so different for everybody else, and everybody deals with things differently. Get back to me, the camera's on moi. Painting is beautiful. I'd rather look at that, to be honest with you, but I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health, and I don't know exactly where I'm trying to go with this. I just want to talk about it because I feel like it's a very uneasy conversation for a lot of different people, and I still think it's sort of taboo to talk about it in society. People don't want to talk about it. Emotions and vulnerability makes people extremely uncomfortable, especially people that are running from their emotions. There's a lot of times where I've beat myself up for being an extremely deep person, and I was I was journaling about that this morning, and there's a lot of times where I'm very hard on myself for being emotional or very in my feelings, or sometimes I wonder on this channel, like I second guess, I'm like, well, how much of my life should I share? And in the grand scheme of things, as much as our mind wants to focus on what people care and what they think, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. In 50 or 50 plus years, in 70 years, I'll no longer be here. I don't think I'll live till I'm 100. It won't matter. What videos I post on my channel, it won't matter. The impact that I make and the ripple effect that I make in the generations to come in my family line, that's what's going to make a difference. It's not going to matter when life is all over for me. And I'm not saying that there's no meaning to life. There's so much meaning to life. But I think the reason why I'm so deep on here is because, one, I am a deep person. I've always been like this. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because if you're a person that is very emotional and you're, you know, kind of an empath and you pick up emotions and you can feel how people are feeling because of your childhood, and, you know, I can walk into a room and tell you who's anxious, who's stressed out, or who's angry. I could tell you in the blink of an eye. It doesn't take me much to observe them. I'm introverted. I'm an observer. I see things for what they are. And there's a lot of times where I'm really hard on myself, like, God, you know, should have I posted that video? Should have I posted that? Like, oh, that won't matter. And it's like, it's in those moments where we think that something's not going to matter and it ends up making the biggest impact. There was a video of mine that I didn't get many likes on, but I have over 300 views, and it's a video about, you know, my self-worth. I don't even remember what I said in the video. I just remember the thumbnail, and I remember it said self-worth, and I think the thumbnail captured a lot of people, but I got so many subscribers from that video. I remember looking at it today and I was like, what the heck? This is crazy, right? Yeah, I got 7 subscribers, which is a little ironic because we're doing this video today and I'm talking about 7 different butterflies, and 7's a perfect number and 7's my lucky number. And I guess what I really wanted to say here is I have spent so much time, money, energy, effort, frustration, resistance on my mental health journey. Like, after I lost my mom in 2012 to suicide, I already struggled with depression. I remember having depression as early as age 5, and I know I've said this in my video, but I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot because there's going to be a lot of new people coming into this chat room, so to speak, is what I like to think of it. But I just remember when I lost her, it escalated it times 100. I was a mess for years, my 20s. Blink of an eye, they were gone. You know, it's at least the first 7 years after, me and my brother having this conversation, at least the first 7 years after she passed away, we struggled the hardest, and it was the hardest. I struggled the hardest anyway, but he had mentioned, my brother Tony, he's like, you know what, Ty, I feel like the first 6 or 7 years were the hardest, like with the grief part, and it kind of took that long to really accept that she wasn't coming back, and just kind of you know, growing that acceptance, it really took that long. And 7 years really isn't that long of a span if you think about it. There's a lot of life that happens in 7 years, but in the grand scheme of things, 7 years to deal with grief and to cope with something that nobody gives you the tools or the resources or tells you how to deal with this shit, it's not that much time. And I think that there's a big difference between sitting in the pain and dealing with it, or sulking in the pain and giving in to your misery and just accepting the fact that, oh, things aren't going to get better, because it's not true. There's so many times where my brain has told me that, like, what's the point of life? What's the point of this? What's the point of that? And that's depression talking. And I've explained this to quite a few different people, and I feel like I'm spilling my guts on here because I kind of am, but I feel like a lot of people are going to understand this that do struggle with their mental health. And I'm creating this video and I created this painting because it's spreading awareness of depression. All of my art is based around mental health awareness. Yeah, honestly, I exactly don't remember where I was going with that. I was on a roll and I lost it, but ADHD problems were not diagnosed here, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Oh, I think I was saying something about, oh, that's what I was saying. Light bulb moment. It came back to me. Thank you very much. She remembered. I gotta hang on to it before I lose it, but depression is a bitch. It is so hard to deal with, especially if you're going through this pain alone, or you're dealing with grief, or you're coping with, especially people that are like lost in addiction. I've never personally struggled with it, but I have countless family members that have struggled in it. And I've explained this to several different people, is I'm a very black and white person. There's some in between about me, but I'm very black and white. I'm either A, extremely happy, on top of the world, joyous, or B, I'm depressed and nothing in life excites me. And that's just who I am. And I guess I had to come to this sense of acceptance that that is who I am, and those are the things I'm going through, and I'm not settling for it, and I can continue to heal through it. But on the same aspect, the reality is I do struggle with mental health. The reality is I do struggle with depression. The reality is I do have big emotions. The reality is I am a deep person. And the conclusion that I came to about that, and I feel like someone needs to hear this, is there's nothing wrong with you. Just because you have a chemical imbalance doesn't mean that you have no quality of life to live. There's so much that you have to offer to this world. The most amazing artists out there are the people who struggle with their mental health. I mean, what is it? Vincent van Gogh cut off his ear and went absolutely crazy. I'm not saying cut off your ear, don't do that by any means, but the most creative people are the ones who've struggled the most intensely. And as effed up as this sound, the best art that I've ever created was in the pit of my hell, was in the pit of my struggle. And I kind of faced this identity crisis as I've been getting happier, is like, what is my art gonna be like when I'm like healed more? Like, what is it gonna be like? Is it gonna be as good? But one thing I have to remember is I'm still gonna have visions of these paintings. I'm still gonna have certain struggles, and I think that you can create beautiful art without struggle, but I think the biggest part of the creative process is healing through those really deep wounds, through creativity, through nature, whether it's looking at trees or admiring moss on the tree, or looking at a leaf, or how the sun's hitting the clouds in the sky. Just taking those moments to just live in the moment. I forgot who said it, but depression is living in the past and anxiety is living in the future. And so many of us with technology and social media and all of this other stuff, is we're so focused on what everybody else is doing, what the latest trends are, and like I catch myself doom scrolling. I'm guilty of it. One thing that I had to give up the last few days, and I spent the day with my friend Kayla yesterday in nature, and I've been spending more time in nature. I'm trying to soak this up before winter hits, because not only do I have depression, seasonal depression is like coated on top of it. It's like sprinkled. I feel like a 7-layer dip, so to speak. You got like depression, anxiety, PTSD, and then, oh look, seasonal depression's on the top. It's like the cheese of the 7-layer dip. There's more layers to it, but that's how I think of it. It's hard because everybody, like I said, everybody internalizes things differently. Everybody deals with things different. And I just wanted to create a piece that spoke for so many people who feel like they're silenced. You know, a lot of people, as soon as they start like seeing a sad video, they'll like change it, which I don't blame them. There's so much worth to, you know, focusing on happiness and like not watching sad content and getting like stuck in it. But I think through this human experience, any of us want in this life is to be understood. Well, we want to feel like somebody gets us, and I think that that's why we search for this external validation through, I found myself, I'm saying this because I've lived this shit, you know, through TikTok or short form content, and, you know, we have this dopamine hit, and it's like, we get stuck in this doom scroll, and then by the end of the day, we end up comparing ourselves to somebody. I was comparing myself the other day. There's this girl on here, amazing artist, she's probably 20 years old, she's in New York City, and I was so happy for her. I am happy for her. And I wasn't jealous of her. I like, so to speak, like, I was sad because I felt like I was behind. And I'm talking to somebody today because you take her for an example, and I had to really check myself at the door. I had to check my ego. I had to check my pride. And I had to be very self-aware of this. And I was like, I don't know what that girl went through to get to where she's at. Maybe she wasn't always good. She has amazing editing skills on YouTube. She's a decade younger than me. And I can't imagine somebody being, you know, 50, 60 years old. My friend Brandy was sending me some videos of like, they have like, you know, 60, 70-year-olds creating YouTube channels and they don't know how. So like, I can't imagine how those people feel, but I felt like I was a decade behind this chick, and I had to really check my ego at the door, and I was like, I'm very happy for her. I'm sad about me, and I acknowledged both things. I acknowledged the truth, I acknowledged my feelings, and I came to the conclusion that everything happens in timing, everything happens for a reason, and I know I hate hearing that when I'm going through it. Like me and my sister were talking about this. If someone were to tell you everything happens for a reason when you're struggling with depression, it makes you want to punch them in the face. It's like, shut up. I think the one thing that you can say to someone when they're struggling in the dark is, it will get better. I don't know when, but it will. I have faith that things are going to work out. Somebody to kind of uplift you. Maybe that annoys you too, but like, depression is very sensitive. It's so different for everybody else. But the point that I was getting to is I watched this other YouTuber, and he's like on this spiritual path, and I've been following his journey for like a year, and I remember when I first started following him, I was intrigued. I like to like look back at people's old videos and like see how far they've come with like their editing. That's the business part of me. It inspires me. Like that gets me hyped. It's like, yeah, one of these days it'll be like video 500, and maybe then my channel will blow up because my videos are great now and they sucked before and I thought they were good. But I remember watching this kid. He's probably 23, 24, maybe 25 at the most. I call him a kid because I'm a 30-year-old grandma here, so just kidding, I'm not grandma. But I remember looking at his videos, and I scrolled through all the way, and this guy has over 200, almost 300 videos, and I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I was like, holy shit, like, I just remember thinking about this guy, and I was like, he has so many videos, he has so many things that like, there's so many videos, and his content wasn't great at first. His content wasn't awesome. He didn't have the equipment, he didn't have the camera, he didn't have the microphone, but he kept going. And I remember scrolling down, and it was like 4 or 5 years worth of content. When I listened to his video a couple days after I found this girl on YouTube, obviously I'm subscribed because her art's fucking amazing. I think what this kid is doing is phenomenal, and I'm very happy for her. But I remember listening to this other guy, and he's like, yeah, it took me 4 years to hit a viral video. And I was like, ooh. So my moral of this story is everybody's journey looks different. Some people's whatever they want explodes right away. Sometimes it takes you more time. But what I've learned in between this process, even like creating art, I get a lack of response from the world, and that's something I really struggle with. But the one thing I really have to remind myself of is these struggles is making me work harder. It's making me get better. It's making me think outside of the box. Like if I would have blew up right away, if my YouTube channel would have went viral right away, my videos probably wouldn't be where they are at now. They're not the best quality, but they're not the worst. They've gotten a lot better if you look back to what my first few videos. I'm super into editing. I like adding funny things. I like making people laugh, and I didn't intend for this video to be like a TED Talk about life, but there's so much that goes into this piece called happy, and it's happiness is the opposite of depression, but I also wanted to portray that there's a darkness in everybody, but sometimes we get consumed by it. So I don't have prints of this painting yet. Hopefully by the time you watch this video, I will. I'm still working on getting prints of all of my artwork. It's kind of hard to tell because orders really aren't coming in as quickly as I'd like them to, because yeah, life is lifing and doing all the things, but I do know that the original is for sale on my website. This painting is like 2 by 3 foot, I believe. Let me check here. Yeah, so it's 24 inches by 36 inches to give you some food for thought. So it's a pretty big piece. So if you're interested, I have a link down in the description. If you made it to the end of this, drop me a comment down below. If you're struggling with your mental health or you have a story to share, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And I think throughout all of this, my biggest goal is to create a community of people that are like-minded. We can help each other become better, and feel very emotional talking about this, but maybe we can lean on each other for support. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Until next time, my homages, peace TF out.